the internet.
Toodaloo.
We're here. I'm probably a little quiet now that I look at my mic stuff. No, I'm okay. Cool. I got a new microphone, guys. I just want to announce that here at the top.
Congrats.
With
Congrats
the
on the
hopes,
new... Yeah.
With the hopes of not clipping whenever I want to just, get outside of my box. Get outside of that vocal box.
Yeah. Yeah. My child is still loose in the house.
Oh.
So stream, we may see something here soon. Hey everybody, this is High Shelf Gaming. We are going to be playing some AGON tonight. This is our usual Saturday game. Hey buddy. I'm not with Tron right now. Tron's downstairs. Why? Oh, because he's a doggy.
This is beautiful.
Yep. Here, bud. Do you want to say hi to my workers, my coworkers? Come here.
That's fun.
I call you all my coworkers.
That's
everybody
fun.
On Twitch. You're all called coworkers.
That's it. Oh. That makes things easier.
Are you playing with my collection of Bibles?
Is that your Bible collection?
That big right there is that one right there is the Book of Mormon, Pearl of Great Price, and Doctrine and Covenants.
Oh, wow.
And
that's a good
the
one.
King James Bible.
Gotcha. It's cool. It's all in one.
But the other ones are also Bibles.
Gotcha. Sweet. I'm loving this. This is a good way.
This is probably the most wholesome stream we've ever had.
I know.
Yeah, right? It's gonna wreck it here in about 30 minutes.
Yeah, we're gonna ruin it in about 15. But
why don't you go ahead and read that in your room?
Go to your room and read the Bible. That's the entire size of your body.
He's going to come back with so many questions.
I was going to say.
I hope he does.
That
would be good. That would be really
got
good.
all the Mormon books rolled into it too.
Those
so
are all the Mormon
there's a
books
lot
in
of
one, yeah.
there's a lot
There's
of
some
things to ask about.
confusing material in
all religious materials. There's a lot of confusing.
But those ones,
especially, it's all baffling. You're telling me there's what? where do I go to see these things?
I'm confused. Did we change authors a few times?
Right.
It kind of feels like
it's almost like Leviticus and Deuteronomy, like different people. So weird.
So weird.
So anyways,
it's like the things that they're named as weren't the people that wrote them either. So weird.
Oh my god. So hey, yeah. This is what we do Saturdays when child is not finding my books and doing his own religious exploration as you do as a 2-year-old.
Yeah, he's ready.
Of course.
Ready to go.
Ready to start a spiritual journey.
Couldn't happen soon enough, frankly. It's a lifelong journey. So this is our Saturdays. And then when are we? Is this coming Monday is Shadowrun?
No,
following Monday. Last Monday was Shadowrun.
Last Monday was an attempt at Shadowrun.
You guys have been chatting a bunch about Shadowrun, and I was like, oh, is it coming? Is it like about to happen? It's not.
No, our next run is, but next Friday is Mass Effect.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, that's our weekendo games next week.
That's right. That's right. So our next game is going to be this coming Wednesday. We're going to be playing the Brindlewood Bay, the marvelous murder mystery mavens. And then on Friday is going to be Mass Effect. Saturday day is going to be a big Cyberpunk stream as part of GaryCon. That's coming up this coming Saturday. And we're going to have a bunch of people on. We're going to have the Con Save, John the Wise, Wandering DM, us. We're going to have Artel Sorian on, one of their folks, one of the game designers going to be on. So we're going to have like a bunch of Cyberpunk people talking about running Cyberpunk campaigns. And then on Saturday night, AGON all over again.
And the next island is going to be a doozy.
Sweet. I like doozies.
It's going to be a real I put all the stuff into an island sheet for it, and I ran out of space. So I'm hoping that whatever they do this week that they hinted at on Twitter makes more columns, because there's a lot of things that describe people, and you need all of them.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So yeah, that'll be exciting next Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be. Last week I'm picking from the section that is further islands in the book, and those get real complex, whereas the starter islands are meant to be kind of simple, straightforward. These get a little more mythic, I guess.
Neat.
You see a lot more tags on stuff and some
Nice.
interesting quandaries.
That's exciting.
So,
That's
yeah.
exciting. Okay, good. So yeah, Ethan, I'm going to hand it over to you to take us into the world of Aegon, and I'm going to go shut that door while you get us going.
Please do.
Or not. We could just have more of the child.
Yeah. I would love. We just need to convince David to do a podcast with Dax.
I mean, we could teach. He's learning about the Bible. Like we could teach about Greek mythology.
That's right.
Right. You know,
just call it Dax Squared. I think we're building podcasts for you, David.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait.
But yeah, what I was supposed to do is introduce our game tonight, which is Aegon.
Sorry.
It is a nice Greek heroic role playing kind of Greek inspired, I should say. None of this even pretends to be accurate to Greek mythology. This is a very like pop culture view of Greek mythology, which is, about all we could do well and be in a nice safe zone. So yeah. And you all are heroes. You're on your way home from a war, but then the gods decided that, hey, maybe you could do some more stuff for them. Because, you did all that war stuff. And that's human stuff. And if you're going to spend all that time just doing human stuff for humans, you should probably do some stuff for the gods too, because you forgot about them and did your own wars. And so, yeah, you guys have been adrift, being guided by these paths of stardust, these, little trails of stardust that lead you on from island to island until eventually one of those will be to home, to known waters. The stars will right themselves and you'll be able to navigate once more home, but we're not there yet. And the mists still have you. At the beginning of this session, we find you all having just left the Isle of Speiros, where you encountered strange inventions and machines from Casibios and his partner, whose name is escaping me right now. I remember it being problematic to pronounce. Where's it at? Eridus. So not just question. There's many ways to pronounce that, I feel like. But Casibios and Eridus have made these very interesting machines, including a drill that was tipped with this strange star metal that was going to let them drill through the gates of Tartarus and release Kronos to do something. Don't really know what the plan after that was. But these machines were fantastic. It allowed them, there was just these big metal husks all over this volcanic island. And you found that even Casibios himself had sort of converted his body into some sort of machine. Very, very like Terminator style. But also very Blades in the Dark style. That was some creative liberties I took there. He had turned himself into a hull and had a spirit bottle actually in his chest that held his soul. But that was dog food by the end of it. So when we talk about the fate of the island, that's definitely one thing that we need to discuss is what happened to everybody, right? Because all of the big actors on this island did end up in the underworld in one form or another. But some other things happened. We had our first failure on a defend roll, our first, the first time that you as a crew had not managed to stop all of the calamitous things that were going to happen, which I think is a big moment, is that, these bad things have happened and you tried, but it wasn't quite enough. And that's another very important part of being a hero, is you have the very, very high highs and then you also have your lows. And that's what, that reminds us that, even heroes aren't infallible. And so now with your different crew, for the most part, it's about you have one ship remaining, which was Phaedrus' ship, the Rogue Wave. The Raven's Feast was destroyed. And what crew you have left are about equal parts of the crew you started with, those who remained, and the lost, the few of them who remain. who many of them have parts of them that have been replaced with metal, arms, eyes, these inventions. There's my cat. I forgot to shut my door. But yeah, these sort of half mechanical sailors that now sail with you as well. And we'll get in a little more how that's going, because, you know, inevitably there are going to be friction and issues when you combine two groups of people that don't know each other and expect them to live together on a ship. But yes, and so that is where we find you all now, having left the island and once again surrounded by the mists of this unknown sea that you find yourself sailing. And so now we are in a phase of the game called the Exodus, once again. And we start the Exodus by sort of writing the fate of the island, which is here on the Strife player sheet. I'm surprised he can hold that. It looks so heavy. And so, yeah. Here's where we kind of summarize what went on, and we save this as like a record of your journey. So for Speiros, let's see, what do we have for our fate of the island here?
Magical garden grows.
Yes. I think I would like to end there, because I think that's a nice high note to end on, with after all of the really bad things that happened on this island.
Yeah.
We'll start with all the death and destruction, and then we'll end on a nice little garden that nobody's really there to tend anymore, but
it's magical, so it's fine.
Yeah.
So it's like it's an island that's littered with mechanical creations that have broken down by now, because he's not there to repair them, and they all got caught up in that same landslide.
Well,
that killed
they were
all
already
lost.
broken when you got there. A lot of these like massive structures that were just embedded in the side of this mountain, many of those were non-functional. They were prototypes and things that just didn't work. But now even the things that did are going to fall into disrepair.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's like this mechanical and organic grave. Because there's got to be some of those lost that are like partially buried, right?
Yeah.
Because of landslides and all that kind of stuff, along with all this like machinery.
Yeah, I think we'll start without Casibios' stewardship. The machinations, what were they called? I think they were called machinations. Yeah. The machinations of Speiros will fall into disrepair. We'll say Casibios and Eridus's stewardship. So those will fall into disrepair. Those few of the lost who remain, or we'll say who were not killed by the collapse of the mountain. Just so we can get that, make sure we remember that a mountain collapsed. Now sail with the heroes. And I still have neglected to name. I will be naming 2 prominent members of your crew this evening, but I have yet to do that, so I'm just going to pick from the list in the book. Cool. Now sail with the heroes. I know this text is extremely small, but there is no way to make it bigger for stream. But I'll figure something out for like our finale where we read off everybody's heroic legends. Let's see. The gates of Tartarus remain whole.
Yeah.
And Kronos remains trapped in his prison. How do I make this particular one? Oh, that's how I do it. Let's see. Anything else? Anything else big that happened before we wrap it up with kind of where it's left?
Is the island uninhabited?
It is now uninhabited. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll say without the Lost and without the Sundering Maw, bringing in new ships, the island remains uninhabited.
So I know that we broke all the little spiders when we fought them, and then there was the landslide or anything. But and then we broke the giant machine that was drilling through the center of the thing. Did we turn off whatever it was that was shooting out the harpoons and pulling ships in?
So that was all one machine. The Sundering Maw, it had all of these like harpoons that would grab ships and then pull them into it. And that was all kind of like one mechanism essentially. Oh, they were called mechanisms. They weren't called machinations.
Yeah.
I was like, machinations is not a thing. I'll say mechanisms. Yep. The island remains uninhabited, save for the sacred garden. Who brought that garden about? Was it Demeter or Persephone?
Demeter.
Sacred garden.
Demeter. I called on Demeter.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
That grows freely on its shore. I think we'll leave. I think that seems pretty all-encompassing. Right. And also with the collapse of the mountain, I think that opening into Tartarus is more or less, or the underworld rather, is more or less sealed. That drill is kind of stuck in that opening, and I don't really think there's any way to move it.
It's like a cap. It's like a cap that's buried.
Pretty much, yeah.
With mountain, yeah.
It has a whole mountain. It's a miracle you guys got out. Mostly because I had no way to keep you there. I had no tools to do that, so I just let you go.
In other role-playing games, we would be telling the story of how our heroes were trapped alive and dug their way out.
We'd have 6 sessions of digging.
Yeah.
Actually, we
centipedes
wouldn't.
And junk.
we wouldn't, because that's very bland. It would be one check and you gotta be out. Be out. Gone are the days of minutia. But yeah, I think that is our fate of the island.
Yes, exactly.
Or destiny
shovel skill.
Shovel skill.
That's what we need.
And
there's like a spring that Demeter made as well on the island that's feeding that garden. Could we say that like because of all the like death and the what they're not machinations, they're
mechanisms
and all the mechanisms that are strewn about, can we say that like the mound, because it's no longer a mountain, it's fallen, right? Then now the mound is like a big poppy field, because isn't Demeter the goddess of, like, isn't that her
seasons, agriculture? I mean, I'm sure she does have specific flowers.
I think she has a specific flower.
I think Persephone's is the poppy, which
Oh.
works just as well because that's my whole gig. So
Yeah. Because I think isn't it like
the Demeter a poppy to help her sleep after Persephone was abducted. So yes, it is symbolic of both of them.
Yeah, I like, and also the poppy is a whole thing around death.
Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
Like all the poppy fields of World War I, World War II, all that kind of stuff. Like, I think that would be poetic, right?
Yeah.
As it like was once a thriving mountain and is now a mass grave.
Yeah, I've got remains uninhabited save for the sacred garden of Demeter that grows freely on its shore and will spread over time to cover the island in fields of poppies.
Okay.
Love it.
Beautiful.
And then, it's opium, right? That's there now.
Is that the same poppy?
I don't know.
Okay,
I
fair
don't
enough.
know. It's just the poppy.
I'm sure there are many.
Poppies.
I'm sure there are many types.
Right. But yeah, that's what we've got there for the Destiny of the Island. That should be showing up. Yeah, we're gonna have to do something in the future because we have now matched like the bottom of the sheet, and if we keep going, we're gonna have to start scrolling. So I guess that's just what we'll do. But I think we'll figure it out. We'll see what surprises. The AGON sheet's supposed to get like a huge like revamp with like tokens and stuff.
That'd be awesome.
this this week. So we might just have to redo our whole
You could just
shebang.
do this whole sheet. You could do the whole sheet in Legend Keeper.
Could.
Craziness. Crazy talk.
Yeah.
What kind of sociopath would do a thing like that?
No one does that in Legend Keeper.
No one makes whole character sheets. But yeah, so that brings us to the second part of our Exodus, which is where we record the great deeds of our heroes. I'm gonna change our scene here. We'll get rid of the strife sheet. We don't need to see that anymore. So we're gonna be here to talk about the great deeds of our heroes. So everyone gets to record one great deed that they take with them as like the symbol of their time here. One of you also is able to claim the special reward for this island, which is the star metal. You have a hunk of star metal. It is unprocessed, it is unforged, but it can be made into a weapon that is said to be able to harm even the gods. And so one of you may claim that, and I don't think there's a contest to make it a weapon. I think it's simply establishing that there is either someone on the ship or someone on an island that you get to who can do that. And I do have an idea of how that could happen on the next island, because there is like some kind of stuff there that I think could work.
Awesome.
So for
I mean,
now,
Larry only uses a club. He can just tie it to the end of the stick.
right? Yeah, tie it to the end, and now you've got a big hammer.
You get a big thing of like leather straps in this
Yeah.
random hunk of metal.
But yeah, so who would like to claim the star medal?
Not me.
I think
We all get to fight
Shadowwise-
over it.
I think Shadow Eye Xenon would want it. I think
You know,
that's
get you
something that a
some-
guy with that kind of epithet would want.
Get you some new weapons that are shadow wise as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're still rocking the like bow, right?
Yeah. He still has
you
the
some-
bow. I
you a
think
brace of
last
daggers,
adventure
maybe?
I talked about a knife.
Mhm.
So it'd be kind of cool if he had himself like one of those like long pointy assassin type knives or something like that. That would be, maybe he could get one of those forged. So
Cool. Get you some hidden blades. We'll just Assassin's Creed the hell out of this. You just get the little.
yeah. Oh yeah,
I'm
because he's
down-
got
I'm
all the
down with
crafting
it.
reason. He'd love a little mechanism.
I'm
that,
so down with that. If you want to do
okay.
that, but
Well,
we'll decide.
If another player wants it, then I don't want to take it all for myself.
I mean,
but,
it's a contest for it.
it's fair.
Larian wants it, I can tell.
Valerian would like a big club. I mean, if we could how big is it?
I think this like chunk of star metal is probably enough to forge a few blades, but I don't think it's enough to form like a whole club out of. You might be able to make some studs for your club.
Oh, like a big
like
tetsubo,
bandit or something like that.
Yeah.
like a big the big Japanese tetsubo. It's basically a baseball bat with big
Mhm.
studs.
Yeah, I think the way I like to do, I think everybody gets a little bit of it, but only one person gets to mark it on their sheet as like an advantage die that you can check.
Oh, got it.
So everybody will get weapons because that's important for later on. You might meet enemies that can't be affected by mortal weapons and things like that. So I think this is a good
When
way.
we do go to hunt down a god,
Right.
we need to know that.
Or
Right,
maybe
you're
the
gonna
pet
need-
of a god. So like not the god, but like
No. This is
The
this.
god.
This campaign just became attack and dethrone the gods. That's
mean,
yeah.
I'm here for it.
Um,
Not really. I'm
No.
a child of
No.
a god. But I mean, if one of them showed me their back,
and slay them and take their place. Come on,
This
Have
sounds
y'all
like it's
met
turning
Larian?
into a D&D game of
We're
about
a JR
17th
we're a
level. Yeah.
JRPG. We didn't start in a high school classroom, so it's not a full JRPG,
Yeah.
but
Right.
like the killing God thing is typically how those end.
that's true.
Mission 1,
Um,
rescue cat from tree. Mission 100, kill God. That's a JRPG.
Sounds- I would just,
Valerian
like-
Go ahead, Heather.
I would just like capstones of the metal for
Yeah.
my staff. That's it.
I
That's
think
all.
we'll see what opportunity you guys get to like forge this. I think there is a
Mhm.
way on the next island for you guys to like, as part of your reward, like in addition to the special rewards of the island, you also get someone who can forge you some weapons. But I think for now we'll leave that kind of inert But someone can go ahead and put that on their sheet. It's just a matter of who.
You want a Rochambeau for it, David?
Well, it sounded like we all get to have a weapon with some kind of star metal thing going on.
Yeah, but only one person can mark that for the D10.
Right. Yeah, and I'm fine to Rochambeau for a D10.
Okay, you just want to what?
Do you want in on this, Mike? Like, you've been quiet.
Yeah.
Vampire light.
I feel like Mike also wants to be in on this.
We can just, we're in roll 20. We can just roll D6s.
Or is it a contest?
I think let's make it a contest. I think that's fun.
Yeah,
let's get that dice roller up in here. Let's just swap that scene. That's why I made all these scenes, so I could just on the fly
do it.
I think I'm gonna do this similar to a leadership contest. You guys aren't on an island, so there's no strife level or anything like that. I'm just 2d6 and whoever is best. I would like to define what kind of contest this is.
I think then since
maybe it's any domain, and maybe you guys just get to kind of bring it.
Well,
but like, what is
Makaria is not participating? I think Makaria, you should be the one to set the challenge.
I like that. That Makaria is kind of
arbiter.
You know
that
this.
we've all been sniffing around it on the boat. We've all picked it up and held it, and you can tell that all of us want it. And you've discerned that this needs to be settled before this becomes a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay. Then arts and oration. Makaria wants to hear the greatest story in which you vanquished or conquered using a weapon.
So your greatest triumph in battle, basically.
Making sure that it's weapon based. Yes.
Yeah. So not just a feat of brute strength, but how you have effectively used a weapon. I like that because that's like you're trying to convince Makaria that you know enough about weapons to be trusted with something that can harm a god, which makes a lot of sense for Makaria and a lot of sense for just the situation. So yeah, you all can go ahead and test your fates and put what you want into it. We'll see who gets the
drop
D10.
some bonds. Some.
No.
Oh God!
Oh,
I did.
no, David. No, David. I didn't mean for that to happen.
Yeah, Shadow Eye Xenon does not spin a good story.
Oof, two twos.
Uses his Uses his typhus halfway. He's like, I didn't want to hear about your bird. I wanted to hear about you using a weapon. Well, he was my weapon for so long.
Are you gonna tie the star medal around his neck?
He's gone. I can't.
Then that's problematic. Then I foresee a problem.
Oh, and a tie. So we roll name dice.
Roll 20s after us again. Yeah.
Yeah, roll 20s here to make things fun again. So name dice, please.
The D8. Oh my God. Micah's.
Okay. Hilarion will receive for his great deed, or trophy. You get star medal. Is what you can put there.
I still want to hear these stories though.
Yeah, we still have to go through. So we'll start with Xenon, Shadowwise Xenon. How does Xenon go about telling the story, and how does it not land?
Yeah, how does it not float? Yeah, so Xenon, I think I buried the lead already. Xenon has many stories of heroism and wins in battle. Unfortunately, all the ones that these people haven't heard involve typhus as his primary mode of killing people was by coordinating with his attack eagle. And he's telling this story and you can almost tell there's this moment when he realizes, oh, this is a story about typhus. So he like delays mentioning typhus for as long as possible until it's a little frustrating because it's like he's talking about it like, flitting back and forth through the air. I don't think that's a blade. And then like eventually Xenon finally is like, it was typhus, yes. and then it all falls apart and it just
And
Xenon
I
has
think
no.
Still a good tale.
It's right. It's a
Still a
great
good
story,
tale.
but it
Thank
doesn't.
you.
Not about. Doesn't meet the prerequisites.
right.
But
And
thank you for sharing.
Yes.
I think the
Are we
suffering
here
there.
to forge tiny little covers for talents? Like, it's yeah.
You've seen those like cat caps or whatever?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I
Or
know
like what they
those.
do for like rooster fighting or whatever, and
Yes.
the spurs. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
for
no
a bird that you don't have anymore. That's so sad. You can,
Yeah. It's
yeah, I think that is the suffering aspect of this, is that you were kind of caught up for some time just remembering typhus, and it brings you some sorrow. Of like just something that you miss, and at this point you cannot see the vault of heaven, you can't see the stars, which is probably the thing that would bring you solace, to see this constellation that was created with your last sacrifice in honor of typhus.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it is hidden from my vision.
Yeah, it is hidden from you. So you spend a lot of time just looking up into the mist and clouds, just kind of a bit melancholy, just remembering, past glory that is, can't happen again. So Phaedros tells a good story, but not the best story. What story does Phaedros tell?
Phaedros' story is he will start across the deck, and he's done it a couple times where he'll like his spear is kind of on the ground, and kind of like stomps the end of it and like kicks up, like grabs it out of the air. Right. So he will probably like come before Makaria and like do that to pop it up off the ground, and like kind of hold out his hand where it's like it's kind of like balanced there and you can see it, and be like, you've seen me use this spear. I've carried the spear the entire time we've been on this voyage. And like as he holds it out, you can see that like it's a spear, but it's not like a Greek style of spear. Yeah. And it'll be like he'll point to like one of the remaining members of the crew, the original members of the crew, and be like, tell her where the spear came from. And that it's he and the crew were in this like hopeless fight, like pinned down completely in a ravine, and like, people all above of them, and like Phaedros ends up like turning the tide of the battle by like killing someone and taking his spear, and like just eventually doing all that. And it's like it's a big and exciting story, and like it's like that turned the whole thing around, and like and then it's like, and that's how we're all here still serving under Phaedros's command. And that's when it kind of like sets in, like, except for the half of us who are gone in the last 24 hours. Right. And it's like, oh, like it takes some of the excitement out of that sail.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that just how much, and I think that is kind of just an ever-present kind of feeling around the ship right now, is just that feeling of like half of these people are strangers to us, and the other half are just, we're the ones who are left, and we remember all of our crew members who are gone now, and that kind of thing. But Hilarion is always good at bringing the mood up a little bit. So Hilarion's the one that wins the day with his story. So what story does Hilarion tell?
Hilarion seems to think for a long time, because he's got to get this right. I mean, he wants to win the stone. He needs Daddy needs a new club. It's gotta,
He's hearing all these other stories ahead of him. He's like, I don't know, I need something bigger.
I need something good. So, he's sitting there and he's obviously thinking. He's walking around a minute, and then he turns around and goes, so there I was. We're in a fort. Behind the walls, we've been under siege for weeks. Water was running out. Rations were gone. We didn't even have rats left. And the invading army, they had just built this massive siege tower and were rolling it across the desert towards us. They were pushing it through, and they had these massive beasts that were just pulling it in on these giant wheels. And it stood stories tall over the wall. And we knew that if it got to us, we were doomed. We couldn't hold out against that. We just needed, a few more days for our support to come in from the rest of the forces. We were in dire straits. So what do you do under these circumstances? Well, you take a risk. That's what you do. And I knew that if they got that all the way up against the wall, we were going to be in deep trouble. So I went and I had the longest rope that we had, and I tied it around myself. And then I ran all the way along the southern parapet. And I had several people ready. I had some help in this, I'll admit. We called, and I ran as fast as I could and dove off the edge of the wall and swung through the air like a majestic boulder and smacked, bam, right into the side of this tower. And then I just slid down it very well,
gracefully,
landed on the ground, and just begin to cause a general melee of damage to the structure on the side of this thing. See, they had braced it for pulling forward and for pulling backwards, and it had these wheels, but it was not prepared for anybody to be banging on the side of this bad boy. It only took me 2-3 good swings with my hammer or with my club to break one of the supports. And then it started getting all kinds of wobbly, people. This thing was going back and forth, port and starboard. None of this front and back stuff.
You've got like the whole crew at this point, like kind of doing the same motion, and the ship is kind of
it was swinging back and forth like a mast in a storm. Boy, it was just going. And I saw it. It was coming for me. So I started running back, and everybody inside, they'd pulled a giant wagon up to the top and tied the rope to that. So when I got to the bottom of the wall, they just shoved the wagon over, and it pulled me and yanked me all the way up. I flew through the air and landed mostly back on the wall. And we survived. That whole thing crashed over, decimated the whole force. They were not prepared for that. There was chaos abounding. I only crushed 2 people.
That's a very good story.
The best weapon is your body.
And my club. I used my club.
Well done,
the best
Valerian.
weapons are the simplest at times.
Correct. Yeah. From a rock to the club.
Yeah.
The windows to the wall.
That's right. Until something happens. I don't know what comes after that. We're not going to get into that here. But yeah, so 5 glory to Boulder like Hilarion, and 2 to Phaedros, or no, 3 to Phaedros. I'm used to D&D where you round down, round up here. 3 to Phaedros, and 1 for Shadowwise Xenon. But yeah, and so cool. So now we know where the star medal goes, which means the other 3 of you now get to define your great deed or your trophy. And it could really be anything that was on the island. You could say that you took with you as a trophy. So like, if you want one of those little spider things, like you might have one of those little spider things that like is working now that you've somehow we can make it work, right? Fictionally, we can make it work. So what is your great deed or your great trophy that you've taken from Speiros?
I definitely wanted a machine.
Okay.
Like, the spider thing sounds great.
What does that machine look like, though?
Some kind of working thing off that island that Xenon would be would be compelled to grab. Right.
What would Xenon want? It doesn't have to be a spider. It could be anything. It could be a handheld device. It could be, a piece of armor that has like mechanisms built in it. Like, sky's the limit here. We can get weird with it. This is heroic fantasy. It's not actual Greece.
Sure. I think that, probably Xenon's biggest moment was in the control room with all those like steam pipes and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe in there was some sort of like automaton that would like manipulate those things, some sort of, many armed clockwork creature that would manipulate those pipes in the way to keep the drill moving down. Right. Because it probably did still have to do some kind of thing. and those guys were not. He wasn't going to stay in the room controlling this thing. He's like, no, I just need the drill to go down. So little clockwork automaton.
I think actually in the art there's a very interesting setup that they show of like in the mechanism there's like these two humanoid shapes on either side that are like pulling back and forth to keep this thing spinning, and so I think there was that kind of mechanism there.
Cool.
And you saw like these two automatons who were
So I grabbed one of them. I have a very strong backed automaton that that I am tinkering with, and it works when I really need him to work, but generally speaking he doesn't do much. So is this thing the size of a man? Is this like a full on? Maybe it's bigger than a man.
He's bigger than a man. Okay.
Maybe.
So maybe more like kind of like a gorilla size then, if we're talking like just brute strength sort of.
Yeah,
deal.
right. Because it was a huge drill, right? So it'd have to be something pretty strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like some kind of like gorilla size juggernaut type thing would be pretty dope.
Okay. Yeah, and then so you'll get to check that. I think fictionally, when you check that, it'll probably just break the first time you use it in battle, right? And you'll have to fix it or find something to do to fix it.
Right. Yeah. I think that makes perfect sense because like I use it, stuff starts popping off. It's like, okay, now I got to take it all back and spend a challenge to get it back together.
So it'd be like a contest of craft and reason just to get this thing going again. Right. I think that makes sense. So yeah, have your like automaton servitor or something that like does things, but it mostly just sits inert in the hold.
I'm gonna call it a clockwork gorilla.
Okay, sweet.
Because we kind of set that size and that kind of thing, and that'll. And it's from the island of
Speiros. Yeah, cool. That works for me. Phaedros or Macaria, what was your great deed or your trophy that you've taken? Speiros is a good one to take a trophy from because there's a lot of weird shit there that you're not going to see anywhere else.
Yeah. I'm kind of debating between a couple. And they both seem interesting in their things that Phaedros would want, but I don't know that they're going to come up again in like game. One being either like they're sort of like their desalination hydroponic growing food type setup that they had. And the other that I totally forgot. Like saying that they did manage to accomplish one of like the upgrades they were trying to do to the ship.
They did. We should talk about that. The ship does now have a metal plated hull for sure. Okay. And I think those harpoon launchers, because those just needed to be attached. Those were already made. So I think you have those. I think what they didn't quite get to was that whole propeller system to like automate the ship's motion a bit. I think that's just not there, but you have your crew that can still row. So it's still functional. Okay. It's in one piece, and you have those.
And you still have the pillar, launchers. Right?
And we still have the Pillar of Storms.
Pillar of Storms. Yeah, I used it, so it's got to get.
You need to recharge it.
We do still have that. I'll go with the desalination hydroponics deal.
And I mean that could definitely come up. There may be situations in which you encounter a starving population. You can share that with them, right? And things like that. So I now know a little bit more about hydroponics, and that there is no dirt involved at all. It just kind of sits on top of a nice nutrient-rich liquid solution that grows these things, which is very interesting.
It generally is moving, but doesn't have to.
Yeah. It's wild. Just like, this is what plants want. We're just going to give them their food with their water. It's pretty simple.
Just Brondo, straight Brondo the whole time. Yeah.
The wild ones are the vapor hydroponics for like space hydroponics, because it's like way more efficient to do vaporized transmission of material than liquid.
Right.
Wild stuff.
It's insane.
All right. So yeah.
That's fun stuff. So that then brings us to Macaria.
I think Macaria wants or would take fruit from the garden that was created and blessed by Demeter. I feel it probably has some rejuvenation properties, or
I would love, like, off of that, if it was like maybe a pomegranate kind of deal, and like almost work like a good berry in D&D, to where like one seed of this pomegranate is enough to feed someone for an entire day kind of deal.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, is that along the lines of what you were thinking?
Yeah, it was.
So yeah, we could call that like sacred pomegranate or something like that. And with the seeds, with the amount of seeds in a pomegranate, that's enough to feed like your entire crew, basically for a whole day, which is cool.
Yeah. In thinking about the gorilla for a little bit, I'd like it to stay like down in the bowels of the ship.
I think maybe what it does normally is that it's at like the front of the line of rowers, and it
just sits there, and
because that's what it can do. That's what it can do, is it can pull. It's this motion is something that it's used to, so it can just do that.
Okay, I was thinking it would be like down underneath the ship, like under a tarp.
Oh, well, I mean, even that, but
and because I didn't know how much motion I could really get out of it, so I thought,
I think just doing that it was made for would be fine.
Okay.
Would be fine
cool.
with me.
I love that. That's great.
And that way, that's another way you can check it, is if there's any sort of like seaworthy stuff, you can check that and say that it's helping with the rowing kind of deal.
Nice, I like it.
But yeah, I think sitting it down to have it do something that it was made to do is not. That just seems like something that would be, that's practicality, right? It's like we could set this thing in the middle of our rowing benches and it just pull.
It's got oars on either side instead of being committed to just one side. Yeah. It just sits there in the back.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. All right. So that is all of our great deeds, which means that now we move on to our virtues. So we have to give everybody their virtues for the last island. Which this is the part that we should probably start doing at the end of the actual islands, because this is always the hardest part for me the next week, because I forget things.
I'm into that.
I forget what goes. So maybe we should just start putting those. Wait, gotta answer a message here. So let's start with Phaedros. Like I think is what we normally do. I think, let's see. Let's think about what Phaedros. What would you say that Phaedros's like big accomplishments were on this past island? Because I know like Phaedros was pretty instrumental in saving the ship, and you talked to Shades. You worked with some Shades again, and kind of used that. I think based on
I tried to focus on getting rid of the dude who was running the drill. Like
oh, that's right. You had a couple of contests with him.
CBS, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I want to give you courage for being on the edge of the drill when everything was going to shit. Like that would have been a real easy, like, oh man, you fell into lava. Like that would have been like almost incidental. It's like, yeah, well, he was on the edge and like all this crazy stuff is going on. So like, yeah, you go in the lava.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm gonna have to go acumen, because I think like the ability to get the ships free, a lot of that was like knowing what to do, and I think without Phaedros's leadership there, it would have been difficult, like much more difficult to do. So I'll say acumen for me.
Courage for me for like trying to get the ships down and away from the maw that was trying to get us.
I'm gonna say acumen, because he was our leader this time, and I think he did a pretty good job of getting us through without any of us getting killed, which is always the number one task. He accomplished his one job well.
Right.
You had one job.
Yeah, so those are the 4 virtues we have there for Phaedros. So I think next, I'm just going to go around Zoom. I don't know how we normally do it, but next we'll do Makaria. For Macaria, I want to say passion. Because I think a lot of this was emotional for Macaria, especially at the end. I think that was the thing that really stood out to me, is because I think Macaria got to have a really nice moment with her mother. And so I think that's that like familial kind of love, I think, is what shines through for me for this island.
I was going to say passion too, because of her devotion to Demeter on the island and the blessings that she gave. Like that was straight up like, I'm going to save these people, straight up, right? And it was just a lot of good. I
was gonna say grace for compassion for your whole like. I mean, you made a magic garden to try to take care of these people. That is compassion, if nothing else. So.
Yeah, I think Hilarion was going to say grace for the compassion and care and patience. Really, he feels that she should get patience every time just for putting up with him. But yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So next, let's do Hilarion, I think. Courage for me. Hilarion did a lot of good. Well, no, maybe I think instead let's go with grace for Hilarion on this island, because I feel like there was a good bit of Hilarion saying, "This isn't my bag. I'm gonna let somebody else take care of it." I think was part of it.
I'm gonna go with passion, because he was pretty against like going and dealing with Prometheus, or doing anything with the machines. So yeah.
What about acumen for displays of knowledge and wisdom in terms of like, here's the reasons why we should not piss off the gods, and like helping set that whole stage forward. Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna go with passion for like, here's my hard line. I will destroy all of you if you do this thing I don't want you to do. Like that's straight up like, I will murder everybody. That's if it's a virtue, it's passion.
Yep. Makes sense.
If murder of many people could be virtuous in any way, it is passion.
I think the gods would think it's pretty virtuous.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
The gods would love that. It's like, oh man, this guy's great.
Yeah, he's on board.
Hope he loves his new island that he's on all by himself.
Yep. And I think that is everybody for Hilarion. So now Xenon. I think acumen for me, because you were very focused on those mechanisms in particular, and like using cunning and wit to dismantle this thing.
Yeah, acumen.
I think I'm going to go acumen as well.
Okay.
I'm trying to find a way to be like, well, that is what you did. Can we give you something that's not the same thing?
I
mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Like at the end of this is the thing that he's known for, right? So whichever one is the top one, that's the one that his stories kind of focus around, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Hilarion gets a lot of courage, let me tell you.
I know. Yeah, you're probably like double digit on courage by now.
It's definitely his highest.
Yeah. So I know that like you were trying to dismantle the whole thing, but also like charging up like literally to the gates of Tartarus in the process of trying to do that. Like there's some courage involved there. So like, you know.
I'm into that.
Excellent.
Yeah, those are my top two. The others, grace, passion, not so much. So the fits. That's the type for Xenon here.
Yeah. All right, and so that brings us to the last part of the Exodus, which is the reflection period. And this is the part where if you think your epithet doesn't so much apply anymore, you can change it now. Does anybody feel? Okay. everybody feeling good? Hilarion still remains to be boulder-like, so that the day that Hilarion is no longer boulder-like, I just don't know what to do.
New game.
New game.
We're just done.
The theme is ruined.
Yeah.
I think there's a second epithet I want to add because I don't think I've gone away from iron-minded. Okay. So I think I'm just waiting to tick that box. So
gotcha. Cool. Sounds good to me. All right. And so then that brings us to the voyage proper. I think this would be a good time to take a break. A little early, but we're going to go into like fellowship and sacrifice and all those things. And I think we're actually going to start this next half with something a little different. That's not technically a phase, but something I think would be appropriate and I think fun. And everybody is going to give a eulogy for a crew member that they were close to that was lost.
Yes. Oh man.
I want to build. I want to build that out. I want to give a little more. Put some names on some faces.
We need our wall of memory. Like in the XCON game, when you lose soldiers and they get their like little mention. That's what we need here is our wall of memory.
Yeah. So I think that's what we're gonna work on. I'll give you. I told you guys about this last week, but if you didn't think of anything over the course of the week, then now's your chance. You get 10 minutes while we're going on a break.
Cool.
Yeah. And if you need names in the Legend Keeper under the hero creation summary, there's a big list of names. So if you can't think of a name for a crew member, like just grab one. It's all good in the hood. Awesome. So we're gonna cut to break, I think, for about 10 minutes.
10 minutes. All right. Cool.
10. Yeah. And then we'll be back with more AGON.
Let's do this. All right. See y'all.
Bye. Back. Here we are.
Excellent.
We've arrived. I have to say it because I don't know how else to communicate to you all that we're on the internet.
Right. Yeah. There's no other way.
To say it.
There's no other way. Yeah.
So we're back. We're here. I put lotion on my face because I'm a little sunburnt and it stings and now I can smell it, which is just mistakes were big.
It's all bad. Everything about it's bad.
It smells good at least. It's like honey and shea butter or something like that. I don't know. It smells good.
Everything smells good for a few minutes. After about 15 minutes,
Yeah.
And then you're stuck in a Yankee Candle shop and the headache is coming.
That's terrible.
So that brings us to our voyage phase. Slightly before that, though, because we're going to do some eulogies, I think. And they don't have to be long. They don't have to be complicated. It's not going to be a contest. I would prefer this to just be us fleshing out the crew a little bit. And so I'll start not with a eulogy, but with giving you 2 prominent members of what's left of your crew. The first of these is the member of the Lost who had asked to join your crew. The man who is, he has the sort of mechanical arm, the mechanical eye, and I believe you also said a mechanical leg. And his name is let me see. Let me pick. I had one picked out on this list. I think his name is, I lost it. Archelaus. He's known as Archelaus, and he sort of represents the Lost on your crew. Because those are all people that he knows. But yeah, there's Archelaus. The other sort of prominent member that sort of kind of speaks for the original crew of the Rogue Wave, her name is, where was it? I always find these names and then look away from them. Her name is Scythia. So that's just S-Y, no C in there or anything. But yeah, her name is Scythia or Scythia. And she is kind of she's like the one who's been there the longest that's still alive. Yeah. And so she now speaks for everyone. And so I think it's Archelaus and Scythia that approach you all and sort of ask you to address the crew, because spirits are understandably a little down. The lost, everybody who didn't make it on the ship, and your crew lost everybody who was killed by the Sundering Maw or happened to be on land when the mountain collapsed. So both sides of your crew now, like the 2 elements that make up your crew, have both lost a lot of friends and crewmates, and I think they're looking to you all not to give like a general statement, but they want you all to highlight and bring up, some of the crew members that were very important to everyone. And just pick some names, because people want something to hold on to. And I think having those few crew members to kind of put faces to this tragedy, I think is kind of where they're at, where there's just too many names for them to be able to feel all of that grief. And so they just want a few to remember and to celebrate, and then know that the others are there as well. And so whoever has something prepared, it doesn't have to be long or complicated, but whoever has anything to prepare. Yeah.
I can go first.
Yeah. So who does Makaria speak about?
Despina Zanelli, Despina Zenelli.
Okay.
Despina probably was known because she was always around. Everyone saw her. She may have been the youngest of all of us, as she lit fires and kept things clean. She was the youngest maid that did that work. And quiet and kind. We will all remember her greatly for the service that she did and the smiles she gave us along the way.
No, I think the crew. I think at this point we're almost to that. I want to say next in the voyage is the fellowship, right? So I think we're in that kind of time. It's the sun is set. It's a meal time. The crew is all gathered around. On your now one ship, the braziers have been lit for cooking and things like that. And I think everyone raises their cups or whatever it is that they drink out of. Sometimes I see like small shallow bowls kind of deal, but they raise whatever it is they're drinking out of it and give a sort of a solemn. They don't cheer, but they just raise their cups and then drink. And then. Yeah, I think it's Scythia who starts that toast with a sort of a like to Despina kind of deal, and everybody kind of nods along.
Awesome. Xenon will stand and speak of, we are the remainders of 3 crews. For we also inherited some from the pirate queen herself. Samel was one of her crew. And Samel was someone who could always be relied on to lift spirits when needed, and somehow always had dried fish. I swear, anytime there's troubles, anytime someone has a long face or was struggling, Smell was there with their dried fish, and they would sit you down and feed you and bring comfort. I don't know where Smell was hiding all of that, but they always seem to have some. And I remember Smell very fondly because as someone who has endeavored in the past to provide for others, Smell struck me as someone who always provided for those around them. And I hope that we can all carry a bit of Smell with us as we are a new and unique blending of people. And we must provide for one another.
Yeah. And I think this time it's Archelaus who says, "Tu Samel," kind of very, very kind of strongly. And everybody will raise their glasses and drink again. Or their vessels. We'll go with vessels. I think that's a nice shape neutral term. All right. Hilarion or Phaedros?
Mo.
Rochambeau or Vampire Larpit? Now that I know this exists.
Can't see me.
Is that how it works?
Obfuscated. Can't see me.
Potence, I'm allowed to throw the bomb. That's, yeah.
Wow. You know,
Yep.
the bad thing
That's
is,
what you missed, Ethan. That is what you missed.
You might as
coming
well
into
be
games
speaking
late.
another language.
Yeah.
We'll do a whole other stream sometime. Yeah.
Let's just that's what HSG will do at Gen Con next year is just a big vampire LARP.
Dude, there's a huge one every year.
They're already
yeah,
that's right.
A
Yeah.
giant one. We could do our own small
one. Yeah.
And it involves a beer tour, and we're gonna have to now include eulogies at all of the restaurants that have
all the restaurants. I know. Oh man, we had the eulogy for Noodles and Company, and now we have to have a eulogy for every restaurant that has failed.
We just have to get Rob drinking earlier than normal.
He's our traveling.
I think he already starts when he wakes up, so I don't know unless you're gonna like
Wednesday morning on the flight.
Pour some in his funnel, like.
Oh, this OJ tastes weird. Oh, there's no vodka in it, right?
There's no vodka.
No vodka.
What's wrong with this OJ? Where's the bite?
This drink is broken.
That's like Kyla the other day was gonna have like a whiskey and Coke, and she was like, there's no room because this is just full of Coke Zero, and I was like, just sip a little out of it, and she was like, gross, no. And I'm like, I drink these things.
You know what you got to do. Kylan, if you're watching this, what you got to do next time? Just take a pull of your whiskey, and then drink that soda that's in that glass.
Boom. I will pass that along to her. I will pass that along. Excellent. Yeah. So
take one in each hand and just.
That's right. Just mix it on the fly.
Yeah.
That's how we do it here.
That is probably how Rob takes down many of his drinks.
Yep.
Sometime during Gen Con.
Yep.
We love you, Rob, and miss you.
He's like, you know what's a great place to mix? Right here.
right here. The tummy is nature's mixing bowl.
Yeah, but you want to be able to have all those flavors intermingling and like.
I don't think Rob cares.
That is so highfalutin of you to say, Mike.
I think there's a point where he doesn't.
Yeah, no.
Oh my god.
I love you, Rob. We miss you.
We miss Rob dearly. Follow Sweaty Rob. Hashtag Sweaty Rob.
Is that Sweaty Rob make content?
That's yeah. That was our OG content, was hashtag Sweaty Rob, because that dude sweats. Like
I'm going on Facebook right now.
All right, and so now we have the eulogy for Sweaty Rob. Our crew member that is fallen.
I should have done that eulogy. God damn it.
I think my microphone, I think it covers a broader range of sounds now, but I don't think it could accommodate a Rob eulogy.
It cannot.
I don't think any. The cell phone did a good job for Jing.
It was far away though. It was like
far
a
away.
smooth 8
If I get on
back.
the other side of the room, I think that
there it
would
is.
work. Yeah. But yeah, that brings us to more eulogies to other crew members besides Sweaty Rob, who gets a hearty cheer. And then stumbles out from below decks and says, "I wasn't even dead.
I was just leaving it off.
I've just been sleeping it off. What happened? New hull sick. I didn't even notice." And that's
it's got that weight to it.
Is that canon? I'll never tell.
Yeah.
That's up to the viewer. Reader response.
And we call on that bond for a bonus later is
Yes.
the real question. That's,
Call on my bond with Sweaty Rob.
That's right. Okay. But back to our very serious solemn moment.
Good times.
Hilarion would step up, looking very somber as he holds his mug. He would say a eulogy for his dear departed friend, Timaeus. Poor Timmy. He was too skinny. I loved him like a brother. He always shared his rations with me. The rations are too little, and skinny Timmy, he was always there to give. He helped. He stood at my right hand whenever I steered the boat and reminded me whenever I got things wrong, like port or starboard, back and forth. The important things. He let me practice rope tying and knots for hours. I even pulled him back on after I accidentally knocked him off that one time. Poor Timmy. We'll miss you, buddy.
I think, I think Scythia looks at you and is like, Timaeus.
Timaeus.
Yeah, and everybody kind of goes here, and you hear one, and then you hear like some murmuring, and one of them's like, "If he had just had a bit more meat on his bones, that harpoon wouldn't have punctured so many vital organs."
God damn.
Larion's like, I know, he was too skinny. I never should have let him go.
Everybody eat up. It's like more like hearty stew is being passed around.
A wider man could have survived, but bones
He was too skinny.
Too thin. Okay. Excellent. And Phaedrus. Bring it back.
Phaedrus will stand and be like, raise a cup to Scythia for, and to Archelios and Scythia. Scythia, you've been, you're the most senior member of the crew here. But there was one crew member who was older, who had been with me longer than Scythia before this.
I think there were probably several. There were a lot, but
well, there's one who's dead. So
there's there's a bunch who's dead, but there's one you like better than the rest.
Yes. So, but before Scythia, there was Nicarchus, and Nicarchus. Sorry, I took a name off Wikipedia. So I was starting with something, and then saw the name, and then the name had something else to incorporate too. So it's all right, rad. But I don't know how to pronounce it. So yeah, he's Nicarchus. Nicarchus. Yeah, Nicarchus. Anyway,
Well, now he's a carcass. So.
Too soon. Too soon.
I'm sorry. We got on Sweaty Rob, and my whole shtick is just gone.
It's all
silly now. It's all silly now.
Yes. He had been with my crew a very long time, but he had never risen to a high rank. He was a moderate soldier. He never set out to be a soldier. His family were not soldiers. He came from 6 generations of fishermen in my hometown. And God bless him, he joined up and did what he was asked to do, but he was deep down, he was a poet at heart. And it did not serve him very well in the long run. But I do have one of his poems here.
Excellent.
Yes, oddly enough, titled The Raven, from Raven Like Phaedrus. Says, the gloom of death is on the raven's wing. The song of death is in the raven's cries. But when Demophilius begins to sing, the raven dies. So, remembering him and the others that we've lost.
I'm very excited to then weave that poem into our story and kill you.
I'm host.
Yeah.
Here's a knife.
Stay away from glue.
I'm sorry, your name was what? Demophilius? I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna leave. Yeah. Yeah, and I think everybody kind of they hear that poem and there's maybe even a bit of murmurs, because poetry has this weird way of being prophetic at times, and these prophecies can sometimes come from very strange sources, unexpected sources, and so I think everyone takes this very seriously, and I think it's Scythia again. I don't think Archelaus would propose this toast simply because he did not know this man as Scythia and your crew did. And so Scythia again says, "To Nacarchus, may he rest with the muses." And everybody will drink to that. And I think at this point they feel there's like a long moment of silence. And Archelaus sort of stands and says, "May the stories of these few live in our hearts along with those of the rest that we lost." Yeah, and he doesn't really have anything else to say after that. It just kind of like hangs his head in silence, and everyone else kind of does the same. Yeah, and then after some time, people decide that this time for being sad is over, and that now we must celebrate, because there is a time to grieve, but there's also a time to celebrate the lives of those that we've lost, and that is what the crew needs at this time. And so that brings us to the fellowship phase, where everyone is relaxing and eating and speaking, and maybe some folks are dancing. I think it's livelier than normal. But you all know that is a show. That is a coping sort of strategy, is to celebrate hard so you don't have to think about how sad you are. Just party hard. And that's what the crew's doing. And so now during this phase, everyone gets to ask each other a question. And there is a list of those. You can also ask whatever you want if you think of something better, but you get to ask one person a question, and you will both get a bond with each other. And I would like to do this like the last time, since we have like the whole stream for this voyage phase is. I would like if again we sort of follow the thoughts of the heroes to this memory, and I would like the answer to be more of a scene, something they remember, rather than them answering it outright. Because I thought that was I thought that was very, very good and very impactful last time. So I think we'll try that again. So if anybody has a question who they'd like to ask it to, feel free.
I do.
Okay.
It's to Xenon. Now that you've come back to worshipping of Demeter, when was how does that feel compared to times before, perhaps before you were dedicated to Artemis?
Yeah. It's a strange thing. I grew up with siblings from another mother, my father's wife, and I grew up where Demeter was not to be mentioned in the household. But my urge to provide for others was strong, and I could find that in Artemis. And now I have this regret of spending so much time not being true to Artemis. Because why I was there was because of this inner desire to be a provider and to work the earth in the way that I knew.
I would like to see. I think a good scene for this, like a good memory, would be when was a time that urge to provide that did lead you to Artemis. Where did that come into conflict with the role of a hunter?
Yeah, I think that where Xenon can most readily find a memory of where he wasn't quite in alignment with Artemis was in hunting great beasts. Xenon's focus in probably the first great beast hunt that he was on was in the good that it would do for the people and not in the thrill of hunting and tracking the beast. You know, he's with a party of hunters and they were, you know, reveling in their cleverness and in their capabilities at knowing the movements of the beast and the mannerisms of the beast and the way that it hunts people and that sort of thing. And you know, Xenon was more thinking like, oh man, when this beast is gone, this whole village is going to thrive because it's going to stop hunting these people.
What sort of beast was it?
I would say it's maybe a great, maybe like a great boar. That boars are omnivorous and they will eat people if they can, if nothing else is convenient. And I would say that there was a boar that was stalking the woods and it had gotten a taste for human and realized that these are easy prey compared to other things that the boar would come across. And so it ravaged a forest village. And this was not some like wild boar that comes up to your knee, but a great hulking beast that, you know, rises up above your head kind of thing.
Like the kind that Hercules would kill. Right. Or sorry, Heracles.
Heracles, yeah. Yeah, and I'm specifically thinking of like Princess Mononoke style boar, right? These like big, huge, colossal things. So yeah, something along those lines is what was stalking the woods.
I think the one from Greek myth is like the Erymathian boar or something like that. The one that Hercules had to hunt, but yeah.
Yeah.
This would be
so I think that was one of the moments where Xenon realized that Xenon's motivations were not quite the same as those in his party.
Yeah. And so what's to circle back to Makaria's question, how does that feel different now?
I think that the greatest feeling I have is two parts. One of regret for having misstepped for so long, but also relief for finally coming to terms with what I want, coming to terms with what my inner drives and goals really are, and to not be so ashamed of them. So I think that, you know, the regret is there, but the relief is stronger. And that's how that feels.
Excellent. So you both can take a bond with each other as you sort of literally bond over, your family. This is family you're talking about when you speak of Demeter. And in a weird way, Xenon, your sister, you were very close to your half sister now. You've been in close proximity. You were at her doorstep, almost literally. And so I think that there's something to be. I think that's where the conversation goes after that, of you two just continuing to chat, like it, talking about Persephone and Demeter and your small branch of a family that has suffered a lot, but also is so integral to life and people and how they survive.
Yeah, and I think in that conversation, Xenon would turn and ask Macaria, what is it that you desire?
I would say my most lofty of desires is to return home. And I don't mean the island or Elysius. To return home to the slate castle that we just saw.
When was the last time Macaria was home?
In her teens, probably, and she's in her 30s now. Mm-hmm. And it was a sad goodbye, but also a happy goodbye, in that she was going on to worship Demeter. She was leaving to take part in so many things, and it was not realizing as a child that that was going to be the last time she was there, until she returned with Charon upon his boat.
Yeah. What was your life like in the House of Hades?
I think it was.
And how did that work, right? Like, who was Macaria's father that she was able to spend at least, some if not all of her childhood in the House of Hades? Like, what? I want to know more about this, because it's a very interesting time, right? To have a hero that literally grew up for at least part of her youth in the underworld, right?
Mm-hmm. Persephone's lover had died shortly after. Macaria was born on a spring day. So she was born in the upper world. Mm-hmm. And soon after she was born, her father died, in a way that's never been talked about, really. So he himself took his own journey down to Hades and beyond. And in her grief, Persephone took Macaria back to Hades, back to hell. And that year there was no summer. The spring ended, everything grew cold. And Macaria grew up quietly. She studied what was ever able to be studied. She found her father in the fields of Elysium, but he did not recall that he had a child. He barely recalled that who he was himself. And no one could probably ever say that Hades was a fatherly sort, but he allowed her to be there. And and perhaps was just neutral to her being there, as she was a result of what gods do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so. What part of that does she miss the most that makes this sort of her aim?
There was the opportunity to spend a copious amount of time with her mother, but also a good amount of time of being alone and allowed to be on her own and study things or learn magic, speak to everyone that had a story that could still remember it. Mm-hmm. And it's having someone that loves you there very often, someone that's familiar with you, and then also to be left alone to hear the stories of the centuries.
And I think that's when we kind of come back to the present, to this conversation. And how does Xenon react to all this? Because I feel like this would all be very foreign to Xenon. These stories of the underworld, and like what does Xenon think of this upbringing? Yeah. This may not be something that he says aloud. This might just be Xenon's thoughts. But like what?
I think that Xenon would kind of listen and take it in, and not probably wouldn't say much about his thoughts, but would maybe ask a detailed question here or there to understand more what Macaria went through. But I think Xenon's understanding through her story of going to the underworld and that sort of thing teaches him that there's a great deal more about the realm of the gods than he really knows. Most of his time has been spent amongst men, and and has not really traveled to any other godly domains. So this is all, I guess he's understanding that there's that all of the children of gods have very different paths, and that his is not the norm. There may not be a normal path, but that each of them has something for him to learn.
Yeah.
Not many gods are able to cross the river Styx their side. So having gone, or even to know of someone that has a fond memory of the underworld is odd at best.
Right. Yeah. And I think that like it would be more that like, oh, this child of a god went there and came back, and that's something that we can do. Like that's going to be the revelation for Xenon, is like, oh, I've been in this mundane land for so long. It's not. Those are almost still myth to me, and so, oh no, that's actually not.
And I think
that's a
that
place you can go.
I think that is the norm for the children of gods, is not to ever see them even. Like there are definitely many children of gods that have never met their divine parent. They were just kind of left because the gods aren't known for being very good parents. Hera literally threw her kid off Mount Olympus for being too ugly. So they're not the best parents. And so when you do hear these stories,
it doesn't sound like the greatest of places to be.
Right. Like no one.
Underworld? What?
Yeah. Well, even Olympus. Like, even why Olympus, go there? Yeah. They'll yeet you off and you'll die for being too ugly. Like, why go there? Why put myself in that position?
Like, honestly, Olympus really reminds me of kind of like the dynamics of the royal family right now, with all the like goings on. It's very like, this is meant to be pristine, and if you don't match that, you can't participate, kind of deal. And that's very much how Olympus is. which I think also kind of would make sense. The underworld would be preferable to that, especially for a child of Persephone, because there's not so much. Who is there to impress but the dead? And they will forget if they wish. So it's, I feel like it's the underworld always just seemed to be like a lot of actuary work, a lot of bookkeeping, and not much else because they're all dead. So like, where are they gonna go? I don't know. But yeah, I think this is definitely a revelation for Xenon. I think that makes a lot of sense. That this is like that's a thing that we can do, and I don't know. Maybe that I imagine that probably kind of puts your entire journey into like a different lens of like these are places and who knows what we will find.
Right. Yeah, there's the like not there's the thing that comes with like you've heard of places, they seem very far away.
Yeah.
Right? And then the lived experience. Xenon has no lived experience of going to these places, right? But now I know someone who does, right? And so like, oh, that makes them all the more real. And but again, Xenon doesn't share any of this stuff. He's just like, oh, tell me about that part and that part, but doesn't like betray that, this is all new and crazy to him.
Yeah, I think her final thought is that once this journey is over and we have completed what the gods wish us to with these islands and this mist, that Xenon will be able to go home to a home that is here within the lands of humanity. But the closest she may ever be to home for a very long time was on the edge of that volcano.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I think Xenon would maybe ask lastly, like, is there a way for you to get back?
I think so. But I don't think it's time for that yet.
Well, when you're ready, if there's something that I can do to help, say the word.
Of course, Uncle. You'll be first on my list.
Yes, Uncle. Right.
Yeah, and I think you kind of enjoy an amiable, but maybe a bit like, that's interesting. Yeah, but kind of like we understand that our lives are weird, like kind of deal, and you enjoy that like silence and kinship in the strangeness that comes with having divine parents and having half siblings and nieces and all of those things that just are not who you would expect them to be. Yeah. So Phaedros or Hilarion, who would you both like to ask questions to?
I actually have a question for Hilarion.
Oh, all right. We'll start
So,
there.
right? Like, bang, two birds, one stone. Yeah, I think Phaedros will like find him where Hilarion's kind of like to the side by himself a little bit and come over with like a pair of cups of wine and like another piece of whatever the roast meat was that we were having around the table. Like, kind of like come over and like, hey, this was still lingering around, and like, have a drink kind of over here on the railing. I kind of conversed with him for a couple minutes, and then kind of eventually bring the conversation around to like, we've seen you be very brave. We've seen you fight all kinds of things. We've seen you heard your tales of you destroying machinery and like caring for people. And what is there that Hilarion is afraid of? Like, what does Hilarion fear?
Hilarion would be silent for a moment, not as he tries to think of what that is, but more so as he tries to think of how to put that into words.
So I think that's a perfect opportunity to more describe the scene that Hilarion's thinking of, this thing that can't be put into words. Like, what is this situation? Where is Hilarion now in sort of within himself?
Hilarion's greatest fear is that Hermes won't hold up his end of the deal. Hilarion is the son of Ares, but his honored god is Hermes, the god of daring. I mean, that's Hilarion to a T. He does love a good fight, but it's more about the excitement and the adventure. But to be honest, Hilarion he was ready to spend his time adventuring with his family, so to speak. He was done. He's several children, happy to settle down and be there. This war came, and one day while he was out hunting, Hermes appeared before him and told him that he had to go fight this war.
How did Hermes appear?
Just as a man. He wasn't. He was. Hilarion was chasing something down, and Hermes just ran right by him, just dusted him, and caught the whatever it was they were chasing. I think Hilarion had shot a deer, but it hadn't gone down quickly, and so he was running it down to finish it, and Hermes just ran right by him and caught it and ended it, and it explained that he had need of him to go and fight this battle, even though it would take some time. But Hilarion was, well, he was leery of leaving his family. He did not want to leave. But that's a tough place for him to be between his family and the gods. You don't really want to say no to a god. I mean, that's a bad thing. But so he had to kind of balance that some, and so he agreed that he would go and do whatever, so long as Hermes would hold that, would keep watch over his family. He knows that, he's not demanding that they all, everything go perfect and vast wealth or anything, but just that they be safe and well. And that is the gods are fickle, and they can be distracted, especially someone as daring as Hermes. And so his greatest fear is that in this long time that it has taken to get home, he has held up his end of the bargain by going to this war. That war was fought. If he took too long to get home, is Hermes really going to continue to stay and keep an eye on his children and his wife? So the longer that they linger out in these islands doing this, the more his fear grows.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes hard to know when you've encountered a god in human form, but I think for Hermes it was obvious not only in the speed with which this man moved, but also just telltale signs that you would know. I think there were, like, I think this man was tattooed in a way that was very strange to you. I think there were, I want to say there's like wings tattooed like on his ankles and thigh kind of deal, like almost as if his winged shoes. That was like the way that changed. And then of course, two snakes kind of twisting together around his arm. And almost kind of like connecting with the walking staff he was carrying, but as
that and just the way that he said, "I need you to go do this," as though he had any right to do so in any band. The confidence and the bearing and all of this. Hilarion had no doubt. But
and I think that he promised you a few things. Because Hermes is the god of several things. He is a messenger for the gods. He's the god of thieves, the god of travelers. There's many things that fall under his domain. And so I think the thing he could promise you is that your journey would come to an end. And that, he would do what he could to provide you a journey that was worthy of his charge, which doesn't mean easy, and you knew that. But that it was one that you could overcome, that was within your realm. That I think that was one of his promises, that he would not allow anything more than could be overcome. Not without hardship, not without tough choices, not without the opportunity for death, but one that could be overcome, depending on what you were willing to give up. And he also promised to make sure that your family was taken care of, and that in difficult times they would always find something had been delivered that they needed. And you don't have any evidence of that, I don't think. I don't think he provided you any visions or assurances, but other than that, it was his word that is something he would do. And I think that the only other time you've seen Hermes is that as you wrote letters to your family, sometimes you would find that they were gone. And sort of within yourself, you know that they've been received by those who need them. And that's, I think there's still that fear there, but I think for the most part, like you have seen the good.
Right.
There's always, you can never be sure. And I think that's kind of the core of Hilarion, is just there's no certainty with the gods. And it may seem to all be great until it's not.
Right.
And I think that makes sense, that's what Hilarion would fear. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, I think Hilarion is certainly, of the group, I feel that Hilarion is perhaps the most pious. He has always honored the gods and feels that's I think that was in how he was raised, and just his own beliefs. I think his wife is specifically even more so than himself. And so he has faith in the gods because he knows that she does. And he just holds to that. So yeah, his greatest fear is that one thing won't be there.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. And who does Hilarion have a question for?
Hilarion actually has a question for Phaedrus. So
well,
this
that
works
worked out
rather well.
Wonderfully. Yes.
So, Phaedrus, you have this lovely ship here. Pass it gently, and
seem to notice my ship is missing. So.
So we're talking about that now. So you have a lovely ship, and you've mentioned that you've been a sailor for some time, and yet you came very close to losing your ship there on the island. So my question is a simple one. What would you do if you couldn't sail?
I'm not sure Phaedros probably has like a real good answer to that. There's probably some conversation there about like, that was the thing I was most concerned about, like, because A, we're trying to get home, and B, this is what I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do I do if I don't do that? Because I wasn't always a military sailor. I came from, a fishing port, but I've never worked the fields. I've never crafted pots. I've never worked in a tavern. I've always been on a boat. Like I would have just been a soldier, and I'm pretty good at that. But it's not top line, right? Like,
I'm curious, what was the closest Phaedros ever came to like giving up the sea? Because I think that's kind of the memory that would push itself forward. Because that was the
right.
closest. That would be the closest you ever came to not doing this. And I don't know if that's like a tragedy or something that happened that would have pulled you away from the sea, but I'm curious.
I think maybe that was like an offer, like we kind of like cast back to like when Phaedros got married, and like his wife being from a family of like people who had nothing to do with the sea, right? Like they were merchants or something like that, and like them trying hard to convince Phaedros, it's like, no, you should give that up and come work this like lucrative field that we have, and do this kind of thing, and that's being something that probably caused a lot of strife to not do that. Yes, Jay, merchants and caravan travelers, right? Like here's the thing where like you come, this is our family business. You make money, you do this, and it's like, nah, that's not what I do.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I think that was probably the moment that Phaedros's course was set.
Yeah,
like that was the temptation to
and I'm
give it all up
sure
and do something.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a much larger temptation than I'm making it out to be. Like it would be, we'd hire servants and we'd do this, we'd live in the big house on the top of the hill, and like, but you'd be doing something you wouldn't care about. It's not what you're after out there to do. Yeah.
And I think also I think the biggest temptation of that was just to be home. To be able to be home.
Yeah.
But perhaps the call of the sea was just a bit too strong. And I think maybe it was Phaedros's wife that helped make that decision that he should leave. Is that she could see, and she knew what was there. And yeah, I think that's all very excellent and very good. So now that the fellowship has been completed, you all can remove all of the pathos that you've marked.
Be gone, pathos.
Which for many of you is probably all of it. Because that, oof, yep.
I had one buffer.
One buffer. Yeah. So that brings us now to the sacrifice. And I think this is a big one for the crew. Because not only is this a sacrifice, in honor of their own survival, this is also a sacrifice for the benefit of those that they've lost, to make sure they arrive where they need to go. So who has the highest current glory? And so if you've gone up to a D8, then you've gone back to 0 and you've gone up. So who has the mostest?
46.
46.
I got 21.
21.
Wait, how can you have 46?
64.
Because I have a dot in 40. Because I've gone up my epithet where I've filled my glory once, gotten my thing.
I wasn't sure. Does that count in this? Is it name and story
count.
boxes?
Yeah. Well, so
okay.
So what counts is once you upgrade your name die at like 80, you go back totally to 0.
Okay. So even if you have those like placeholder ones for like you have filled and emptied before, those count.
So you empty 40 and 80 until you earn it back again. So I think Makaria has just earned another 40.
That's what we're okay.
And then
Okay. Then
so it's not your total including the 80. It's like once you've gone back to 0.
It's the total that's like not spent.
Yeah, the total that's not spent.
Okay.
So
then 61.
Valerian is 61. Okay.
Sitting at 70.
70. I think that's the highest then. I think Xenon goes. Because I heard 64 from Hilarion, 46 from Makaria. I didn't hear anybody else in the 70s or 80s. So I think, yeah. All right, Xenon, you are leading the sacrifice.
Oh, man.
So, this is a contest of resolve and spirit. Always.
Okay.
Let me have. Yep, I prepared for this leadership sacrifice entered on an island sheet. Roll, resolve and spirit. Target number 6.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think you describe. Maybe everybody roll first. I kind of like that to know whether or not your sacrifice was received favorably before you describe it.
Right. Oh, cool.
Okay. Yeah. That's real good.
That's like as good as I can roll.
Close. Looks like you could have. I see a.
Oh, okay. I could have gotten too higher.
Yeah,
but
you could have gotten too higher.
That's still like pretty dang, almost as good as Xenon gets.
Oh, tie.
Hey, good.
So great, looking great so far, Phaedrus. Do I have us on the one that shows the dice roller? I do. That's good. That was good of me. That was good of me to have
stream. Bask.
Oh, and a 7. Ooh, yeah, that was close. So Makaria and Xenon, roll your name dice really quick.
Okay.
Okay, so Makaria is best this time.
Awesome.
So let's start with Phaedrus. What does Phaedrus sacrifice? And to whom?
I think I don't know. Right? Like I think Phaedrus may sacrifice in one of those braziers, like the insignia of rank that he has from the military here. And that the idea is that he is, given the context of the things that happened on this island, he is willing to admit that, like, the authority of Zeus is the authority over what's going on, and that this is like a symbol of like human authority that doesn't rank as high.
Right. Yeah.
It is.
That's great.
To be cast aside in that manner.
Yeah. And as you toss it in this brazier and it is consumed by flame, there is a low rumble of thunder around the ship as Zeus has heard this and looks favorably upon it. And finds your sort of humbling of yourself, finds that worthy of his attention. So you get 2 divine favor with the god or gods that you have given sacrifice to. Next up, we have Hilarion with a 10.
Hilarion steps up to the bracer and burns a wooden cup, or a wooden cup and a bowl. They were the cup and bowl of Timmy. Because it's important for Hilarion to pour one out for Timmy, because in one, on as close as they were and as good of friends as they were, to a degree, Timmy's death is his fault. He had the choice of saving the gates of Tartarus or Timmy and his friends, and he could have, when that giant shelf of rock was sliding down, he possibly could have turned it towards the gates of Tartarus, and it not fallen back and slid down the outside of the mountains. It was teetering. He had that choice, and he was the only one that could make it. And so that weight is on his shoulders, that he had to make that call and make that choice. So he just wants the gods and Timmy to know that it wasn't an easy decision.
Yeah. And who is that directed towards?
I think part of it was Zeus for that, and let's see. Hades isn't on here, because I would totally do that with Hades, because
right.
Yeah.
That
really did Hades dirty with this one.
That's
one
but
of
also
the big
Hades
3.
would be very popular.
Yeah, he's also not like an Olympian god technically. I mean,
right.
He is, but he isn't. Right, his domain is, he doesn't live there.
So it's actually really believable, because Hades was not spoken about. Right. He was not worshipped openly or anything.
Because that would be like death cult stuff. Like
right.
That'd be weird.
Yeah. Right. And there definitely were death cults, but they were like the fun kind.
Right. And there were several other cults, but like it kind of makes sense because he's not really worshipped.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do Zeus and Athena for wisdom.
Okay.
He could always use a little bit more wisdom, he feels, and this time he felt that perhaps Athena was maybe helping him out there. So so we'll go there.
Yeah, and I think that this sacrifice, there's not a lot of like mystical happenings that show that this has been received, but I think you feel just gratitude, which is odd, but you understand that the gods can appreciate how difficult that was, and that you placing sort of what you felt would be better for all above people that you knew that is appreciated, and that you feel kind of this, almost this feeling that of like, we made the right choice calling on Hilarion, like, and you can feel that, and it doesn't lessen the weight, I don't think, but it like it makes you at least know that for them you made the right decision, and that makes it a little better, just a bit. And so now that brings us to Shadow-Wise Xenon.
Shadow-Wise Xenon goes to some of his war winnings and draws a sack of coin. and goes around the boat to the crew, saying, "This is I'm collecting coin so that the departed may traverse the river Styx. And we'll hand this to the gods and see to it that the gods aid them in their journey." And, all who can, all who feel the call to, Xenon won't push anybody to do that. That's not Xenon's way, but he'll leave it out.
The spirit moves you.
Yeah, he'll leave the bag out, and those who wish to deposit in it, they know that is a communal sacrifice.
Mm.
And Xenon is sure to seed the bag over half full with his own coin, right? So this is not this is Xenon allowing others to partake, not fueling it by the sacrifice of others, kind of thing. He wraps the bag, puts it on a stick, hangs it over the brazier until the bag itself catches fire, and then hoists it over the bow of the boat so that it hangs over the ocean, bag of flame. Yep. You see the burlap embers like starting to blacken as it begins to lose integrity, and eventually coins start to fall in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Xenon sacrifices to Poseidon and Aphrodite. Poseidon, we give you this coin so that you may see that it gets to those who have fallen on that accursed island, and that it pays for their journey across the river Styx. And Aphrodite, may you see that they take their original form, not the form that they died in, that they have beauty and splendor in the afterlife that they deserve.
I think you hear, oddly enough, you hear the flitting of wings, but small ones. As there is but one messenger of the gods, and but one god that can. There's only one divine UPS.
Got it.
And that's
so Hermes. It is Hermes is taking my sacrifice.
But you know that it was delivered to Poseidon and Aphrodite, and that they have entrusted it to Hermes to carry.
Okay.
Because Hermes is really the only god also that I think actually really makes it down to the underworld. The only one who traverses those boundaries.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Got it.
I don't think it's common for Olympian gods to visit the underworld, because that is very much Hades' domain. But even Hades needs mail.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I think the gods you sacrifice to are fine. Okay. I don't think there needs to be a change there.
Okay. Yeah, I have very little knowledge.
They are receiving it. They're receiving it, and they are sending it on.
Okay.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you.
And honoring your wishes.
Excellent.
And so that brings us to Iron-Minded Macaria.
Macaria is going to sacrifice a bow made of yew wood that she was teaching the young Despina how to use in fire. She thinks it should be with her in the afterlife, and thus sacrificing it as such, also so that she can gain the insight of Hecate and the wisdom of Athena.
Yeah. And I think here is that moment again where these sort of sacrificial braziers and things like that kind of flare up, as has happened several times before, and it sort of pushes the mist back, and sort of opens up the vaults of heaven, and you can see that there are many more stars this evening than there were before, and some of them take shapes, and you know that some of your crew has made it into the vaults of heaven to live on as heroes in the stars. And that bow, you find the figure of that bow in the stars, as maybe just a little bit of magic, a little bit of wisdom and things like that have gone to work. And so that will be the end of our sacrifice phase, which brings us to the leadership phase. And I actually have an idea for you all this time. I think after this sacrifice, everyone is kind of solemn for a moment, but then things go back to kind of that celebration, that celebrational kind of atmosphere. As they're just not quite ready to let go of that yet. I don't think the crew still needs that.
Yeah, these are also survivors, right? These are people who, like, at the end of this mourning period, do get to revel in the fact that we are alive, and that is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. But I think that, as with any raucous celebration, I think tensions arise as people become more and more inebriated and less able to kind of push back the things that they don't want. You know, the things that they didn't think were appropriate to say at the beginning of the night now are seeming more and more appropriate to say. And I think that there is sort of it breaks out into a bit of fighting and a bit of arguing between the two halves of your crew. And it's unclear who started it. It could have been one of the lost. It could have been one of the former crew. But it is Archelaus and Scythia that come up to you all and ask you to settle this. Because if this is not able to be settled, that there will be a lot of difficulties for the next little while as the crew kind of tries to reconcile this. Like those hurt feelings will stay unless heroes can come in and find some way to solve this. There's fighting, there's arguing, there's a lot of different conflicts here to sort of deal with. So there's a lot for you all to kind of be able to jump onto and use. So I think this could be any domain. This leadership contest. So I will go ahead and roll that. And let me look on the one that the stream can actually see. Just a 2. This is, there's no failing here. You're gonna do it. It's just at the end of the day, this is what it is. Drunken mistakes.
They want this to be solved.
They want this to be solved. They don't want to be angry at each other.
Right. Yeah.
But they just can't really get past it in this moment because just tensions ran too high.
Yeah. Right? Please give us an excuse not to have a fight on deck.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think even a lot
now we're at this point, it doesn't feel great anymore. But
yeah, and a lot of these people who are in this conflict currently, they weren't involved in the original one, and so they don't want to be part of this. But it's a matter of pride, I think, for a lot of them at this point. Of no, we're part of the original crew. We have to stand up for this ship, and then there's we're part of this crew too kind of deal. I think the conflicts are kind of being overinflated in this moment, but again, 14, yeah, no roll-offs required.
Somebody else won.
Maybe no roll-offs required. What is Hilarion?
Let's see what Hilarion does.
So what is you can make it be anything you want?
Anything you want. Yep.
Drop your bonds, man. Make it happen. Go for the win.
Oh, and 11. Okay, so we have a 3-way tie, and then Phaedros
with the 14
as the captain of the ship, right? Very appropriately settling this dispute. So I think we can start with whoever has something ready. So
I have a thing ready.
Okay, so how do you use your craft and reason to quell the crew's anger a bit?
Yeah, so Xenon sees what is going on. This is a class of cultures. This is a clash of people with different values and different worldviews. So Xenon takes the two crews and says, part of the issue, it appears, is that our new crew members from the island, they appear different. They have different needs. different sensibilities, and it is on us to understand. And I'll like grab one of the new crew members and I'll say, this crew member here must conduct daily maintenance for their legs to work. And then I'm going to point to one of like the existing crew members. And it's like, you will aid this man in his routine. You will understand what it means to be able to move through the world with one another. And then I'm just going to pair people off one at a time. It's like, you need to understand what it is like to be lost. You need to understand what it's like. And then like, I'm going to go and grab the one that needs the most maintenance, the one with the most stuff. And I will say, I will tend to your needs.
Yeah. And I think there definitely is one of the lost who all of their limbs to some extent are these mechanical constructs, and even parts of their face and their eye, like it, they clearly had a very, very difficult arrival on the island of Speiros.
Yeah, and I'll couch to be clear that I don't want the people who are brand new at this to like take on the whole thing and then lead this crew to ruin, but like you're going to aid them. If they want a damp cloth, you're going to get them a damp cloth, right? If they want you to tighten something, you're going to tighten it. But they guide you in how you're to assist them in their daily needs.
And I think that resonates with the crew. I think it resonates in a very significant way. Of these people need the same things that we need, but just in a different way.
Right.
And that's like someone bringing me food when I needed it, or someone lending me their water skin. Like this is the same, and they find that common ground. All right, so Makaria or Hilarion?
Hilarion can go. So he's gonna walk up and he's gonna put his arms around the two ringleaders. And what's the name of the one with the weird eye?
Archelaus.
Archelaus.
And to be clear, they weren't involved in the fighting. They're the ones who are like, "This is awful. Please stop this."
Okay, so he's gonna take these two guys that are the two ringleaders. So
the two who started the fight.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And he's gonna just casually friendly be like, "Look, this is difficult. I understand. The problem is that we have a single ship and two crews. 3 crews, if you even want to go that far. We need to get down to 1 crew. And I know that's going to be difficult. Some of you were pirates. Some of you were soldiers. Some of you," he shakes the guy, "are even from that island, and you've got weird, creepy eyes that really just bug the hell out of me. I can't help it. It bothers me. It's just weird. I can't tell if he's looking at me or if he's looking away. But you know what? You have to get on with it."
He's definitely looking away now. Okay.
Definitely.
Definitely looking away now.
You ridiculed his prosthesis. He's pretty not cool with that.
Yeah. He's like, you have to accept it. It's not like he chose this. This is how he lives his life. And this is how you get through life. You grow and you adapt and you overcome. So we will grow, we will adapt, and we will overcome. And we will become 1 crew. Or I will eject you from this fucking ship. I will literally throw you sons of bitches off of this ship until we have the right number of people who understand how this works. Am I clear? Thank you for this talk.
Yeah,
and he pats him on the shoulders and walks off.
You've got to have somebody who challenges you that you just like kick into the ocean.
Thank you, Ted, for this talk.
They're getting launched.
Yeah, there's going to be somebody who spits, right? And is so like disgusted by this, and you just fucking boot to chest. The guy is gone.
Yeah, and somebody like throws a rope, right? Like, now you know he's serious. Please let's be real about this kind of deal. Yes. Like, and I think the 2 guys who were fighting, who were like just the most involved in the fight, one of them was like, "Hey, I mean, he really didn't have to say all that stuff about your eyes. Like that's wow, yeah, life's tough, dude." And like they kind of like hug it out a little bit. They're a little drunk. But he's like, I feel like it went a little far there. I was like, yeah, I thought it was a little far too. You know, kind of like
That's Hilarion. He goes a little far.
he's kind of a little far.
But yeah, he absolutely launched a guy off the ship.
Yeah, who eventually makes it back on, but you know, very much upset. He's not drunk anymore. He got dumped in the very, very cold ocean water. It is, you know, nobody knows what's down there.
Sobers you right up.
Yeah, he's just sober now. But yeah, so Makaria, how does Makaria help the situation?
Well, not doing that by any means. Makaria has a calm presence about her normally. So she kind of seats herself around these groups that are arguing and then just starts to ask questions, but only a little bit, and letting them just talk. And kind of then looking to the other person, letting them talk, as drunk as it may be. And what she does is performs couples counseling, and listens. Doesn't even really give advice. She lets them talk. She steers each person to, to common
just
ground.
Nice mediation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And no, that's kind of what she does. She's very quiet about it.
Yeah, I think it's almost like to the point that they barely notice that anyone has been involved in their conversation. They were very angry, and now they're like talking about like their favorite part of being at sea or something like that. Like it's this thing that they have in common, right? That they're just very engrossed in that conversation now. And so that brings us to Phaedros. How does Phaedros end this?
Like, he gets the easy job, right? Like, we've paired him off. We've shown if you screw around, you're going off the boat, like immediately. We've mediated between them. So Phaedra gets like coming in bad cleanup afterwards here, with like his
faces are loaded.
Yeah, right. Like, we have 3 different groups that are here on the ship now. Members of the Lost. Talk to the people from the Pirate Queen's crew. We have brought them in. They are members. They are here. They are treated exactly the same. Everybody from the original crew, like, these people have needs. They will be met. We're all going to be part of the crew. And if everybody wants to get home, then we all got to work together. Otherwise, I am turning this ship around and we will go back.
I think that like threat,
live on the death mound.
Yeah, I think that threat is enough that everybody is so like shocked by the idea of that, because they have no concept of what would happen or if that's even possible. But that makes them remember kind of the situation that they're in. And
yeah,
that really...
you can work together a team, or you can live a place that's maybe as good as what that was. Who knows where we're going to end up next?
Yeah,
right?
and I think that just shared, there really is nothing else to do. Like there is not another option. And I think they find strength in that. And I think that it's Archelaus and Scythia who kind of bring forth this kind of chant of like to Phaedros and to the rogue wave and to the heroes and to their glory, and it just kind of, this song rises among the crew. And they sing as one for probably the first time together, and I think that brings everyone together in a way that they now know what they need to do to get along, and yeah, and that means that Phaedros is once again leader for the next island, which is very appropriate considering what I know's coming. And what you guys have an idea of what's coming. Like, Phaedros has a history of doing the things that may be required on this next island.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it works out. It works out really well. And so that brings us now to the Vaults of Heaven. So we will go back to our sheet with the strife sheet, because I have to now give you guys the big kind of cookies. the biggest cookies. There's progress on your way home.
Ooh.
Can you show us the strike sheet in Roll20?
That's a
Because
good.
I don't have the stream up. So
That's a good thing. Let me see if I can figure out.
You
a
set
way
the
to do-
permissions.
Yeah, let me. I can
I
put
won't
it
break
in
it, I
your.
promise.
I can put it in your journals.
We promise not to edit. Yeah.
What he can make is we can't edit, right?
Yeah, yeah. Let me.
I mean, I
edit
just won't look at it.
Not if he's gonna share it with a character sheet.
in players'
really?
journals.
Yeah.
Ooh.
In players' journals will only show up what's in bio and info.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can be edited by. Will let us see the
Oh
actual
wait. Let me click
character.
all players instead of doing
Individual human.
individual people. Yeah. Okay. Whatever I did, it should, and it's gonna absolutely wreck it on the stream.
Oh no,
but that's okay.
I'm
I can fix it.
sorry.
No, I can fix it. It's just a matter of resizing the window. Maybe.
Oh, I see.
Oh, it just shows all of Roll20 now. Okay, let me fix that.
While you're doing that, I just gotta give a quick shout out. Jagos in stream with the clips, man. You're the real MVP of all of this. Like all the clips coming in, so solid, so solid. I wish that I could watch them right now. Like every time you clip something, it's like, I want to watch that. I'm playing it, and I want to watch it immediately. Like this is the goods.
That's how I know I'm doing my job. If Jacobs clips what I say, then I probably did something right.
Right? Yeah, exactly. He's like, did I get clipped? All right, good. Then I did good.
Let me try.
That's how I feel.
Popping this out again.
Oh yeah, and then doing the selecty bit.
Yeah, and then trying to get that selected again in the window
as the property.
Oh man, Streamlabs. You do so much for us, and then you do so little.
You know, it's such a workhorse, but it's only so brilliant. There you go.
Okay, I've got it now. I just have to resize it, which shouldn't be too tough.
Yeah.
To do.
Just sharing the news, Jagos. Yeah, you're right. I'm just sitting here being a journalist. Little bard in the back of the boat, writing everything down. I could sing a little tune about this.
Right. That's all right. Yep, that is the bard of the rogue wave.
Yep.
All right. Cool. So now we're good.
And we all make a pact that we will not kill the bard of the rogue wave. He cannot die.
Yeah, because then all the clips would end. He's like, "Sorry guys, you killed me." So in lore, I can't clip things now.
Yeah, like he's the one that will tell our story. I will show.
Right.
So let's talk about what goodies you've earned. So I think first of all, you get 2 stars with Zeus. 2, because you specifically brought his attention to it and then did a good job and did not free Prometheus. That's really the big one, because if you'd done that, oh boy, nothing could have protected you at that point.
I'd be like, "Hey Zeus, watch this while I."
Yeah, hey, watch this while I do this. And so let me look here. Things happen when you fill up a constellation.
Now, can you fill up a constellation and then get all the ire from the guy?
Yeah, you can still earn ire for that. Yeah,
it's like, I will get you home, but I'm not gonna be making it easy.
I think that's under the vault of heaven.
It ain't gonna be a fun trip.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So
yeah, that's the way. Go right past all those rocks. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's gonna be slow. There's not gonna be any air conditioning. There's, it's like this is a long, slow summer drive, and it's not going to be good at all.
So, you all gain 2 divine favor with Zeus. If you can mark it, if you can't, you can't. That's just how it is. You also receive a boon. Oh, you're actually supposed to receive a boon for every 3 stars marked. That's different than a filled constellation. So that is... Let me count up how many boons you all should have at this point. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2... You should have 3 boons at this point.
Yo.
So go ahead and mark 3 of those, and upgrade the shit out of your character
We was
right
playing as level 1 characters. We're really level 4 characters.
Yeah.
Oh shit, boons. You mean boons?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Oh shit, boons.
Yes. Correct.
I thought you were talking divine favor. It's like cool divine favor and then
No.
bonds. And like, no, you said boom, motherfucker.
Boons. Yeah, so that's adding epithets, that's increasing epithets, that's doing all of those things.
Well, sorry, secondary question.
Mhm.
How do you jump into the bottom? Like we talked about this with
You have
like
to
Dom
fill
and
up the
stuff,
top.
but
You have to
Okay.
fill up the top.
so that makes a lot more sense on how you
Yeah.
get to that bottom side then.
Right. I was like, man, it's gonna be
With
forever.
going into fate, yeah.
It's like at the very
Right.
end, I'm gonna get to the bottom of this.
Right.
This is awesome. I'm there now.
The other
It's
thing you
dip
get,
to the bottom next time. Yeah. Like,
right. Yeah, the other thing you get is you get a bond with Zeus. Everyone.
so
Because you
we get
filled the
another
constellation.
bond with Zeus because we
Mhm.
got a bond with Zeus from the Mythic Challenge.
Yep.
Last time. Okay.
Oh,
You get
cool.
another one because you filled Zeus's constellation. Let's look now. Let me look.
Did everybody get a bond with Zeus for the challenge?
Oh,
Um,
but one of
just
us-
Oh, I
people-
didn't.
Someone got-
Anybody who succeeded.
Yes.
I
Right.
assisted. I didn't participate, so I didn't.
Someone got one with Persephone because I made it mythic.
I thought it was
Right.
Artemis.
No, I called Persephone down.
Oh,
Yeah, and it
those
didn't
you,
go-
those you and Hilarion. Only you and Hilarion.
I
were
got
in
the
on that
one with Persephone.
Mhm.
I did not get the one with Zeus because I assisted. I did not participate.
Yeah. The other god involved in this island was Hephaestus. I think you all have earned a bit of Hephaestus's wrath.
Makes sense.
Because Hephaestus and Zeus were kind of in direct opposition on this island.
Yeah.
Hephaestus wanted human ingenuity to win out.
Yeah.
That's like in being a god himself, he wanted that to happen because that was his blessing. And I think you guys kind of went against that. I think I'll only give you one wrath. I'll be nice about it. Because I don't think Hephaestus is one to hold big grudges as someone who's been the victim of many wrongdoings. I don't feel like he's big on that. Like I don't feel like that's something Hephaestus is super. He's like, okay, I've seen what happens when gods get pissy. I don't like that. That has horribly affected me in my life. So I'm not gonna do
I'm
that.
getting a
but
little
I will-
pissy, but I'm not gonna go overboard with this.
like a little pissy, but I'm not gonna like kill you, or anything like that. So I think you get one wrath with Hephaestus. Were there any other gods sort of invoked that are on the vault of heaven?
Demeter.
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 We both did big Demeter moves.
Yeah.
Like a couple of times, yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely started. That's worth one. That's worth 1 star with Demeter. For sure. Just that, like, that whole island is now her domain, essentially.
We did kind of get rid of all the other gods' interest in that island and said, "This is now yours."
Yeah. So
Except for
yeah,
the Prometheus thing, but
right.
I mean, that's like under a bunch of rock and stuff.
That's actually I should clarify that. The thing that collapsed was the main like volcano of Speiros. There are other peaks kind of on the island, and one of those does house Prometheus.
Oh,
Maybe
I didn't
not
realize
always.
it was on that island.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it might not always be on that island. That's the sort of tenuous. The sort of divine aspect of his torture, because if he was left in the same place for too long, he could rally mortals to his cause. It would be very easy
Yeah.
if this were easy to find. So I think for that moment, for that time, it was on the Isle of Speiros, but
Got it.
Prometheus is moved, I think, a lot. And that's just my imagining, because otherwise, like, yeah, dude's being tortured, but like if you make it to him, he can still talk. Like,
Right. Yeah, he can
that
still
would
spit
be
wisdom.
it would be far too dangerous to leave him in one space. I think I don't think Zeus would be down for that.
And it kind of shows what happened here is that maybe he was here too long, and it caused what's his name to.
Oh, he spoke
mess
to him.
that way.
He
Yeah,
said, "Hey, you know what'd be wild?
yeah, because you do remember Eridas said that Prometheus was. He said it in a way that it was ambiguous, but like knowing what you know now, he was definitely saying that Prometheus was his mentor.
Right.
Prometheus and then Hephaestus. So Prometheus even above Hephaestus. And yeah, so I think a star would demonstrate. So 3, 3, 3, and 2. Yeah, so you guys are like 1 star away from another boon.
Dang.
So probably after the next island.
When,
Now that
how
I've read
many-
this correctly, but
How many constellations are we going for?
at least 3. I think once you have filled 3, I'm gonna start looking at how to maybe wrap things up and kind of get us towards the end of the journey. But right now you're at 1 with like 2 that are very close. The book says 3 for a short campaign, and then up to 5 for a longer campaign. And I think right now I've been pretty liberal with the stars as well, but I think you guys could pretty easily hit 4, and then even up to like 6. So I think I'll probably intentionally choose some islands that don't involve deities that you've gained favor with, just to mix things up if I need to. But once we hit 3, I can kind of start playing and pacing things as I see fit, right? Because you guys have done the minimum, and then it's just whenever we feel like we're done.
Well, if you leave us alone long enough, Xenon and Makaria will turn any island into Demeters. So
yeah, so I might as well let you guys fill that up ASAP, so you can't pull that card anymore. That's that's the goal. So yeah, that with the stars now shining in the vaults of heaven, once again that trail of stardust materializes, and you all have your heading for where to go next. I think we can call it there. I think that's all I've got. That's the end of the voyage phase.
Awesome.
thanks, Ethan.
Yeah, thank you so much for running, dude.
Indeed, yeah. And as a little hint, maybe a little, I don't know what to call it. I think I'll describe what this island looks like, what we see, right? Our characters don't see this, but is kind of this epic film or whatever we want to call it, whatever form of media this takes. I think we see rising out of the mist a very lonely island, one that is dark and gloomy. You can't see the stars through the clouds that kind of choke this island, and you see that atop a heavily forested hill there is a single house, a manor. And you can see that from within this house shines a strange flickering light of a deep blue. And you see that around it, the shades of the damned begin to march towards this home. And that's where we'll leave it.
Nice.
With that little hint. And then when we come back, we'll figure out what you guys picked for your boons. I don't want to make you pick them all now. Take some time to think about it.
Too late.
If you already have, that's fine. But I'd not. I've found myself many a times paralyzed by decisions at level up. So I want to give you time.
Because we got so many at once, it was like, oh, okay, well, those are 3 things I wanted anyway, so I might as well just get them all now.
Yeah.
If it was only 1, it would have been harder. But
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So Ethan, dude, thank you so much for running. This has been a great session. I love these, like when we take a little extra time between islands. It's nice. Yeah. Let's see here, folks watching at home. Always thanks a ton for watching. We love doing this. We're going to do this every Saturday for a minute, right? We were just talking about how long this campaign is going to run for. Come back on Wednesday. We're going to be doing Mike's game.
Brindlewood Bay.
Thank you. I keep
Fudge Jury and Executioner.
Fudge Jury and Executioner. We're just do a hat trick of food related Maven mysteries, and I'm here for it.
And I just put it out there in the ether that Andy and I already have a nook idea, a cozy nook idea, a cozy move idea, and I'm so looking forward to it. Can't wait to show you guys.
That is awesome. And then the other thing is on, let's see here. This following Friday is going to be the Mass Effect game, and then we're doing our Cyberpunk stream with all the folks on Saturday afternoon, as part of GaryCon. I'm going to start blasting that on the socials and stuff. It's time to let everybody know that that's happening. The other thing, I have a little personal announcement for some members of the HSG community I'm very proud of and happy for. We know him as Remulus. He shows up in stream every so often as Remulus, but he was on the podcast back in the day as Vlad. Vlad is now engaged to his fiancée, Morgan, and I love them both dearly. They're great people. I met them in Kansas. They're amazing, amazing humans, and just perfect for each other. So I'm very happy for them. And that just happened like tonight. And so I just can't wait to share that with people. So congrats, Vlad and Morgan, for your nuptials. And I wish you all the very best and all the loves in the world. All right, folks, I'm going to pick a raid destination.
While you raid, can I bring up a couple, or at least one other thing?
Yes.
Or two other things. Original D is back on the 2nd of April, which is 2 Fridays from now.
Yep.
But if you wanted to see the rest of that game, that is coming up. The con save, myself and Kelly, David's wife, will be playing a D&D game for all girls, no boys allowed.
Yes.
I don't know what we're calling it. I don't think that's what we're calling it. I'm pretty sure that's not what we're calling it.
No.
We're calling it Midway Madness.
Midway Madness. Yeah. It's like a module that she picked up off a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Taylor did.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So Taylor's going to be running that.
Yeah.
And we're kind of doing sorry, I'll let you.
Yeah, well, I don't know the date. We're gonna figure out. Do y'all have y'all pinned down the date yet?
It looks like we may do character creation the morning of the 27th, which I think Taylor was saying that she has to do the thing in the afternoon, which makes sense because it's the cyberpunk thing. And then we don't have a specific like day that we're gonna do it, but like Saturday mornings at some point.
Yeah.
But that's coming up, so.
Yeah, I'm excited. And we're still figuring out the details, like, is that going to happen on this stream? Is that going to happen on ConSave? I don't care. It can happen either place, wherever people want to watch it, you know? So I'm very excited for that game.
Great timer's running out.
Oh my God, let's go.
Bye. No, you hit the button.
It did.
So we're out. We're gone. We're good. All right, sweet.
Where did we go?